It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woo-hooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Rap Podcast, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Pod with me, Lee G, and joining me this week is just Rhys. So, Rhys, hiya, mate.
I'm feeling the pressure of the three-region pressure.
Yeah, Carwyn can't make it this week, and Jamie can't make it this week either. So, Carwyn's doing family stuff. I mean, that's a crap excuse if you ask me. Doing family stuff, going to see the daughter's concert and what have you. Poor excuse. But yeah, so it is just us two, and because the season's officially finished, that should make it quite a short show, mate. In theory.
Well, yeah, in theory, because nothing goes on outside of the games in Welsh rugby, does it?
No, again, been a quiet week. But before we get on to Welsh rugby, so let's start with drink of the week as always. Have you managed to dig something out from somewhere this week?
Yes, and any excuse to say that. Since it's just you and me, I felt that we still had to do the drink of the week for the boys. So I brought a Brewdog Planet Pale Ale, which we've had before on the show.
Yeah, nice.
Personal favourite. But I've also brought a Reverend James because I feel like I'm drinking for two this week.
Drinking for two.
There's nothing of that suggests I have a problem.
No, mate, it's you convince yourself that you're drinking on behalf of the others. That's quite right. Well, I'm continuing my journey through my drinks cabinet, through my Christmas drinks cabinet. And you know when you do your Christmas shop,
yeah,
and you get to the drinks aisle and you just put a bottle of cheap vodka in case your sister comes round or in case the neighbours come round, and you can go cheap vodka, bit of Coke, lovely jubbly. So I'm down to Tesco's own brand vodka, made to look like Smirnoff, I think. But yeah, and a flat bottle of Coke. That's
as classy as it gets.
This is
that's 14 years of age on a park bench with your friends.
And hiding it inside your coat when people walk past you, just in case they smell it. But
maybe say, Mister, will you go in the shop for me and buy me some fags?
Well, what I did find that may make an appearance on the pod at some point, is I found a bottle of peach schnapps from Lidl, right? But well, it's still sealed, so I'm assuming because it's still sealed, it'll be okay. But it's from Lidl, and I can't remember the last time. I genuinely can't remember the last time I shopped in Lidl. So that must be 10, 15 years old, something like that. So
really?
It must be easy.
Is there no Lidl's next to you? Like, it is. We're down the road from me. I'm always in there for the booze, eh?
Well, yeah, but I don't shop there. So at some point, I'm going to open a bottle of peach schnapps, and it may take my eyebrows off. But yeah, that's one for the coming weeks. So yeah, right. So let's start with a bit of rugby news then. So big news this week is, as kind of predicted, kind of suggested, with Dan Lydiate going home. So Jamie's going to be a bit gutted that he's not here to rave about Lydiate coming home. But what do you make of it?
I don't think that's a bad signing at all, is it? Like, it depends on how much they're offering him to go. It can be huge amounts at this stage of the game, isn't it? I mean, Lydiate must be, even though he's pulling out some performances, isn't it? But he has slowed down, no doubt. But he's an old warhorse, isn't he? And he'll bring that sort of squad man temperament to some of the guys coming through, have you? And be almost that sort of player coach role. Even though you haven't got a player coach title, sort of thing, like, to some of the youngsters in the wider squad. Not that we've got wider squads anymore, but yeah. So I don't think it's a bad signing, and I think he's still got some performances left in him, as proved this season when he came back from injury. I was quite impressed. I was pleased when he was chosen at 7 against us. I thought, we can move this about, like, isn't it? But,
yeah.
But so don't choose him at 7. I think it's
well, didn't he go up against Thomas Young? For a few guys, and you just say, that's a little bit of a mismatch,
in the regions.
I think so much of it depends on injuries. Is he? And we saw it last year with the expectation where Rob Evans was going to come back and reignite his career and all this kind of stuff, and he spent most of the time staring at the floor in the physio room or training on his own. And I hope that that's not the end that Lydiate has in a way. I hope he kind of comes up with a bang.
Peter out after such a fantastic career and like some real memorable moments in a Welsh shirt, or even indeed a Lions shirt. So I know what you mean. Yeah. Another one that springs to mind with Rob Evans, like that sort of runs concurrently, is a great prop for the Scarlets, Martin Madden, a Cardiff boy, but had some great games for yourself, and we brought him back, sort of thing, and he ended up at the RFC, sort of thing, and he sort of petered out a little bit, didn't he, sort of thing, after playing some fantastic rugby, like, and a great chap by all accounts.
Well, Martin Madden was kind of like a walking personality when he was a bit. He reminded me of Chris Akabusi a lot with the laugh, because you'd hear the laugh first, and then Madden would come around the corner, like, So he was. Like I say, for me, Madden was always the player that you saw on the pitch and all that kind of stuff. And with the kind of the limelight that Lydiate will be under now, and the expectation that might be there, like you say, to bring on some of the younger boys to, I don't know, to steady the ship when things start going wrong, is he gonna get halfway through the season and go, bollocks to this, I'm going back to the farm, So
he's got something to fall back on, isn't he? And that's I think something that Dragons desperately need, isn't it? Because they can play some fantastic rugby. They've scored some of the best tries. That win against Munster at the start, stands out a mile, doesn't it? No matter who Munster was fielding, I don't think that matters when people, say that, Real Dyer was running against Zebo, and I know it was an older Zebo, but it's still Zebo. Like,
Yeah.
like, isn't it?
Yeah.
And doing him and not being afraid. And it was that sort of temperament that was coming in this season from the Dragons. But when they fall and when they start to spiral, they really go, don't they? Like, and maybe bringing in somebody like Lydiat with that sort of graft might steady that sort of ship, you know, or a couple more players like him, which I'm sure they were hoping Rob Evans would be as well.
Yeah. Well, you say they've lost Ross Moriarty and brought in Dan Lydiat. You know, that's
not much like, is it? Yeah.
No, and it's not kind of replenishing from the youngsters coming up. So, yeah, but then he's been there. He knows the club. He knows the people. So, you know, fingers crossed and best of luck to him. He'll hopefully can do something. Yeah. So
I remember once when my daughter was really, really small, we were in sort of St David's shopping centre in Cardiff, and we were getting in the lift. And Dan Lydiat was in the lift, and my daughter just, she was only younger at the time, sort of thing, just like sprinted into this lift and sort of bounced off Dan Lydiat. And he looked down, and she looked up, and she went, "Who are you?"
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do hope that he manages to pull some, even if it's, you know, if he has like 2 or 3 really key performances through the season that you can look back and go, you know, that was his last season, like, you know. But
yeah. No, absolutely, a quality player.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So I know it's not Welsh rugby related, but on the weekend, Connaught beat Ulster in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, which, you know, that's huge. That is, you know. But then you look at the lineup for the semi-finals, and you've got 3 Irish sides in there. So, yeah,
it was fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a Connaught, like, isn't it? To take out Ulster, that's it's a big scalp, I think, like, isn't it? It wasn't on the cards, I don't think, before. Or am I wrong in it?
Well, they've kind of been improving, but they never really pulled out a massive win. You know, they've not had a 50-pointer or anything like that. It's always been, you know, decent performances, good wins.
Yeah.
And they might just be peaking at the right time, coach leaving, you know, finish on a high. But yeah, fair play to them. It's still, there's no Welsh side involved anyway. But
yeah, crime shame, isn't it? Like, isn't it? It is upsetting, but yeah. But I'm a blind optimist. There's always next season. But one of my friends' tagline on his handle on Twitter is "Surely this season."
He must be a Cardiff supporter.
Yeah, absolutely. He stands next to me on the south side. Big shout out to Rob, hello Rob. But yeah, man. Surely this season.
Must be this season. Well, the other bit of Welsh rugby news is Tim Moss, who's the head of WIU finance bloke type chappy. So he's off at the end of May as well. So that's pretty much everyone at the top of Welsh rugby this year has gone, which is quite, you know, like you said before we started recording, that in any other season where your finance director goes, you know, that's 2-3 weeks worth of conversation of what's going on. And that one just kind of went, oh, okay, there we go. There's another one.
it's just, it doesn't matter the blows. There's so many, aren't they, to the state of Welsh rugby at the top, and the organisation, the teams themselves, that it just becomes the norm, doesn't it? Which is an awful thing to say out loud. But yeah. So yes, another one gone. And I think I said to you before we started recording that my wife is the treasurer, used to be the treasurer of the PTA, and now is the treasurer of the local scouts group.
So she's got experience then, yeah?
For the job. She'd be there. We can't do no worse job than what's going on in Welsh.
It is one of those things that, you know, we might look back in a couple of years' time and go, do you know what, everybody changing at the top was the start of something new, and a
Yeah,
whole load of fresh people came in, and the attitude changed, and with a bit of work and a bit of effort, in 10 seasons' time, we might get one person in the playoffs as well. We might get one region in the playoff. But I think you just finish the season the way when you finish the season with your finance director going, you do kind of get to that bit of going, like, yeah, that kind of sums up the season, like, doesn't it? It's the whole... Everything's been a bit shit through the season.
There's been some bright moments, hasn't there, for all of us? In each of the regions, there's been like these moments of, the reason why we watch the game, isn't it? Those like scalps you take and things like that. It's a bit of excitement around certain games. But then, it's been surrounded by so much bullshit, sorry to swear, like, isn't it? But you just wait for this season just to end, to move on, to see what's left and what we can work with, like, isn't it? But it's hard to stay. It's hard to stay like buoyant and positive. But I'd make a career of doing that. So
so you should have a lot of work going in Cardiff at the minute, mate. There should be a lot of people needing it. You should offer discounts for the WRU. Oh, you're another one. Well, okay.
They should give me a free season ticket if you're listening, Cardiff, and stuff like that, because I will be there smiling at the start of next season.
Well, the other bit I wanted to talk about this week was this video about a ref. Again, it's not Welsh rugby related, but the ref in Australia. So they announced all of the referees for the World Cup and all that kind of stuff. And so Ben Whitehouse is on as a TMO. And Craig Evans, who hasn't refereed a Welsh game since Boxing Day. Yeah. And I said that at the time. I said, this is exactly what happened with Whitehouse the season before, and he disappeared for the rest of the season. So he's popped back up as a touch judge for the World Cup. So in Australia, they shared this. It is like a lower league match or whatever it is, and it's really good because the referee says and it's always a scrum half. You're always talking to a scrum half when you're saying these things. So he goes, "You come here, Sunshine. You come here. Stop chopsing." And this little short ass walks up to go, "Oh, me ref, what?" He's going, "Shut up. Go back. Go stand back there. You carry on with an attitude like that, you'll end up as a referee. Now back over there and shut up." It's just like, yeah, do you know, that's a little bit more like that, Mike, actually. And it's always a scrum half. Always a scrum half. They're always the chopsy ones. And the more scrum halves that get told to shut up, in my opinion, the better. But yeah,
like we're both forwards, ex-forwards, and we sort of thing. And like, even your own scrum half sometimes, it was just like, "Oh, shut up, will you?" Like, I can't take another penalty. Like,
exactly.
More. Like, do you mean?
So I used to play number 8, and we used to have our scrum half in kind of school, club, county, and all of that kind of stuff. Butch, and he knows who he is. He knows who he is, and we had a game once. Yeah, but we played this game once, and it was the ball was at the back of the scrum. So it's our scrum, it's our ball. The ball's at my feet.
Yeah,
and he's still giving it yeah. And I remember just standing up, picking the ball. I'm not running with the ball or anything, just standing and going, "Will you shut up for a couple of minutes and let us play rugby?" And like everybody stopped. You know, the whistle hadn't gone or anything. Everybody just kind of stopped and looked and went, "Oh, he's having a moment there. We'll just leave it go at that." But yeah, always a scrum half. Always a scrum half. So anyway, what I thought we'd do this week and over the next couple of weeks is we kind of do like a seasons review, club by club, region by region. So we'll start at the top, the highest finishing team.
Champions!
The only team to finish with any silverware this year.
Finishing, that was a ninth.
Ninth in the table. So I put a question out on Twitter earlier. I said, we're going to do a review of Cardiff season. What did, any questions, any this, that, and the other. And then Simon replied and went, yeah, I have one. What the actual fuck is going on at Cardiff Arms Park? So I thought that kind of summed up the season, really, of how everything is going on there. But we got questions about Jared Evans, some of the players that were bought in, and did they go too much? When's the new stadium being built? What happened mid-season? And then someone's already doing previews of next season, man. I mean, that's way. They obviously haven't done Drink of the Week, but they're starting to think way too far ahead.
How do you do previews of next season? Like, well, squads. But there we go.
Well, that half of Cardiff's problem this year, isn't it? Has been not. I mean, in theory, you bought in a whole load of players that really should have done the business for you. You look at pre-season and everything was all singing, all dancing, and you had young players coming through. You had Mason Grady and Llewellyn coming through, and it was like, this looks like a tasty season now. And then what happened?
Well, thanks, Scarlett. Question. What happened? Well, there were some notable victories.
He's going to mention the Sharks.
Oh, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's it in front of me now? Like on the screen, you're about to scroll at some point, and don't speak past the away games at Llanelli. But on round one, well, first of all, we got murdered by Gloucester, who I think hate us with a passion. We've hammered them in an Anglo Welsh final, and we beat them in Bilbao in that fantastic game when it looked like the game was in the bag for them. So we have this friendly against them, and they hammered us. Then we play Munster first up, and then things look good.
They did.
And we're going to. Beating Munster first, even though they're restructuring and stuff like that. I've got a friend I used to play rugby with from that province, and he just said, looked at me and laughed and said, "Let's wait to see where we all are at the end of the season." And it's not like he's a powerful sage or anything, but he was right. And I think the first two games sort of typify. If you move up the screen there, Lee. We've got Glasgow next that put 50 points on us. We scored 24 against us, but Scotland. And that's not looking good. And we're looking shaky. So we have injuries in like vital parts of the season, and when everything did click, we just had it put in sides away. It also and the difference was as well as we could change our game plan. I was at that game in round 3 against the Lions, and that was very disappointing. I thought we could really do it, considering like the South African sides we did beat this season. Losing to the Lions at home was a huge own goal. That wasn't through injury or anything like that. That was, I think, just
But where was the fight at the start? When everything went a little bit wrong down in the Bay and all that kind of stuff, because that kind of had quite a positive effect on Cardiff. I think
there was a certain prop. I'm not going to say it out loud. It's something they're going to put out. He's bigger than me.
Most people are bigger than you, mate.
Yeah. Rumours had it that he was involved, and he was third, fourth choice prop for Cardiff. And end of the season, he's in the wider Welsh squad now, isn't it? So it turns out the way we perform, and it put a bit of grit in us. I think there was a lot of criticism against the squad and stuff like that. I think they got read the riot act by the coaches. Must have done, like, you can't be doing stuff like that out in your own communities. And then, well, let's look at that next game. And I can see it scrolling up, coming towards me.
So up to round 5, yeah, we'll skip to.
There was, I tell you what, like, it was an awful game. We both watched it.
Yeah.
It was absolute rubbish as a game, wasn't it? But there was a lot of grit shown by Cardiff, sort of thing, like just to grind out this horrible win. But I was going party, like, in the pub, like in the 3 hours there. On my own, while the rest of the pub watched football.
I seem to remember that the podcast that week, that when we did the podcast that week, you were actually quite happy that week. you were quite cheery and were impressed with the standard of play.
The worst thing is, I can't remember that, but it's all recorded, so I can't argue either. Like, so I'm not going to put myself up there and say I didn't. Yeah. But I was pleased with the. Because Cardiff can play some good rugby. All the 4 regions can play some fantastic rugby, and we've all shown that this season, haven't we? But like, something you can sort of level at Cardiff now and again is the heart's not really in the game, sort of thing, and it can get quite frustrating. Like that game against the Lions, so we just sort of fell away.
But do you think that comes with bringing too many players in instead of developing them through?
I mean, I think sometimes, like, it's a bit unfair. I mean, you see about, like, we got Mason Grady and Max Llewellyn come through. A lot of we have Thomas Young, who's originally from Cardiff, and did spend some time, here before moving. We had players that we've had for a few seasons, like one Ratty, who looks to be going back to Ospreys. So he was a good backup player that ended up in one of Pivac's squads and started playing number 8 this season for us. So I think you've got, like, homegrown regional players. Dacey's just retired. Do you mean? So is it like, who are you thinking of, Lee, when you say?
Well, I'm like. You bring in Faletau, you bring in Liam Williams. Who else did you bring in last season? Oh, Thomas Young was the other one, so he's coming home. It just seems to be Cardiff sucking a lot of players from outside because they're Cardiff, because people want to, they want to live in the city, they want to experience the city and all that kind of stuff,
Do they, though? I mean, do we attract players like we did 2 years ago? Like, I remember, I could probably name you the mid-90s side from start to finish when that 94 Swela Cup.
I think I probably saw that. I was in Cardiff that year.
I was at the stadium for that, yeah.
I was sat outside a pub for that cup final. Where was one of the weird pubs, because we couldn't get in, and we were just sat outside and we couldn't get in, and the game was on, and we're like, surely in the middle of Cardiff we can find a pub where we can watch the bloody game. Yeah. I mean, walking wasn't an option at that time, if so we went back home, we watched the rest of the game home and then came out again that night. But yeah, I know what you mean.
You lived in Cardiff at the time.
Yeah. They were my university days, they were.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And the year with the Neath Ponty final, so I was living with a bunch of Neath boys back then. And yeah, that was insane. That was an absolute mental night, that was. It was as one of my Park Vault stories that night. Park Vaults, the night after that game, Park Vaults was absolutely, you couldn't move. You just had to spray the beer in the air and hold your mouth open and hope that you caught some. Like, it was fantastic. But I know what you mean. It was a fairly well-known side, and a lot of boys came
from
through.
All over, like Mike Hall, he was from Bridgend, I think, originally, is it?
Gareth Thomas came from Bridgend, I suppose, as well, didn't he?
That was later. That was much later. Although, we did have Gareth Thomas, so we had Neil Jenkins for a while. But if you're talking about going through the times, but I can remember that side from the early days, and a lot of people did start to come to Cardiff and stuff like that. But I don't think we got the same pull as we have. And we got Falatau, we got a 32-year-old Falatau, Jimmy, just come from Bath, and Liam Williams was 31 when we got him, I think, and stuff like that. So players that still want to make a statement for the Welsh side, isn't it? But maybe a bit more towards the end. You are right. I think all the regions are quite guilty of not developing their players. I think sometimes sometimes not their own fault. I think the money may set aside. I think I said this in a very early pod I was involved in. The money spent on player development and recognition as they're coming through the school system or the college system or club or whatever is not the same to the structures in maybe Ireland or England or even Scotland. So I think sometimes we have to bring in players, and any sort of squad you need to sort of complement with outside players. I think to bring on.
You need a bit like Dan Legic going back to the Dragons. You need a bit of somebody that's been there and done it, and kind of takes a bit of pressure off, and a little bit of a crowd pull and things like that. And it's good to play around those players. But I think having the bulk of your players need to come from. Well, now we're not going to have the choice. They're all going to come from it. Absolutely. I tell you what, I do remember. So you weren't with us for the very first pod, were you? Because we had some other guy, and then I remember listening back to your first pod a couple of weeks ago. And but we got to the end and we did. So I don't think Jamie was there then. So we did. No. Let's do Scarlett's prediction and let's do Osprey's prediction. Thank you very much. Good night. And it wasn't until I listened back to it later I went, I didn't ask Rhys's opinion on anything. We just carried on. So, but.
That's the level, isn't it? The West Walians talk amongst themselves, like the East Walians just like.
You focus on your rugby. You do the talking on the pitch. So after the Scarlets game came the Dragons game. But Dragons had been on a bit of an up over the last before they played you, didn't they?
Yeah, and like you were saying about Thomas Williams, and we were talking about his speed when he's matched against the Lydia 7 when we played at Judgment Day, and he showed his speed in this game, isn't it? With leaving Jared Evans, just stepping into the oncoming defensive line, and then just putting the flanker. Which he's done again, isn't he? He did against the Ospreys as well, isn't it? From a Thomas Williams pop pass, he's always on the shoulder and hitting it at pace. And that just typified we were never going to lose that game. I don't think.
Isn't that the game with Bradley?
And I know Jamie's not here to defend that performance. But I'm going to let rip. Yeah.
But wasn't that the game where Bradley Roberts tried to trip him up?
Yes.
That's it is because that's quite early in the season. That felt like quite recent. It was like round 5. That was a long time. But even back then you could see. I think the expectation back then was that Thomas Young was going to be in the Welsh squad because he has been. I know we've got a lot of quality at 7, but he has been consistently superb in every single game he's played in, and
and he's been intelligent as well, sort of thing. He's not just been robust at a breakdown and showing his pace and coming off the shoulder of players. Like he's chosen the lines he chooses, like where he's going to be, where he chooses to be. It all takes a really good rugby brain, I think, isn't it? So you get a real full package with him. He's so unlucky not to get more caps. And I know he's been outside of Wales, but Jimmy, not being part of this squad looks like it just missed.
It's absolutely ridiculous that he isn't involved more in the way. I can't work it. Gatland talks about having athletic, dynamic players, and then
we're good at the breakdown.
Yeah, but then he brings Lydia in and Alan Wynne-Jones, and you're like, come on,
Freaking.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and when you look at that little run of games that you had there, so it was Scarlets, you beat Scarlets, and then you beat the Dragons, and then you beat the Stormers.
Then you beat the Stormers,
and they finished in third.
Yeah.
So, that was, but wasn't it pissing down that night? Wasn't that the one where it's absolutely tonking it down?
Glorious. No, I don't know. I remember that.
I'm sure we did predictions on that one, and I said I think this game will just, because I always have a look at the weather forecast, because we live in Wales. It's important. And there was a storm coming in, and it might be that might be the week that my boy had played at Cardiff, and we beat Cardiff, and he had a cracking little try, but it was pissing down that night, and it was like it's going to be like this all the way till Friday, and it was a Friday night or something like that, and it absolutely hammered it down, and you boys played really, really well. It was like
I was at that game. Yeah, it was just to beat the Stormers, and I'm sure we'll come to their South African president. Arguably that was one of the better results, isn't it?
Yeah. I think at the time the Stormers were a little bit lower than where they finished in the table, but they're still the Stormers, and they're still pretty bloody exceptional. And then it all came off the week after. It all kind of
the Scottish sides, and it's like we're putting some big sides away, but it's like a mental block. As Jamie would say, shit in the beds against certain sides. Isn't it? The Scottish side just seems to have our number now. So losing to Edinburgh at 17:25 at the Arms Park, another missed opportunity. It could have gone another way, but and these sort of games typifies Cardiff season, isn't it? Moments of absolute brilliance, like some complete games, where we were just, the pack was amazing, the backs were amazing, and the interplay was fantastic too, what have you. We went for the full 80 minutes, showed fitness, showed good rugby intelligence, and then just fall away and lose games. Edinburgh are a fine side, isn't it? Aren't they? But I think at that time we should have won that game. I felt, obviously. Yeah, I'm a one-eyed Cardiff supporter. But
well, no, it is when you look at the run of games that you were on. You had 3 really good wins. I mean, you followed up the defeat against Edinburgh with a trip to Selshire Sharks in Durban. My boy is now kitted out in a whole load of Sharks merchandise. I'll tell you all about that. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But yeah, to have that blip of Edinburgh at home in the middle, I think that's where Cardiff's failing is they can get themselves up for the big games, and then the game that you'd almost expect to be a bit of a dogfight or a bit of a tussle, those are the games that they lose.
Yeah, which was all the more impressive that, I'm not saying this, but like to win in Llanelli sort of thing. That's why I was so impressed with that game sort of thing. And that was after Eggate, wasn't it? But like what I think Cardiff are very good at doing is losing concentration, losing these games that we possibly should have won, telling themselves off, and then refocusing and going out and putting a performance together sort of thing. I think that's something that seems to be something we're good at, or were during part of the season.
Well, let's talk about that next game then, round 8.
Let's talk about this
game. So, away in Durban, lovely sunny day down there. I mean, were you expecting that score at the start?
No, even though it was raining and things like that. Of course, I wasn't. Like I was bracing myself after losing to Edinburgh for something quite horrible. But as a supporter, you turn the TV on and go, right, well,
I've got to do this. I've got to watch.
yes, yeah. Call myself a fan, and now I'm doing a podcast, so I've got to watch it. I've got to know what happens. I've got to be able to dissect this horror movie. But it wasn't. It was for the Sharks fans. Oh my God! I think the coach got sacked the next morning.
Yeah, he got sacked. Yeah,
yeah. And me and my friends were sort of texting each other, going, "Are you watching this?" Like it was almost like, "Yeah, we're winning." It was almost like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
It was amazing from start to finish. Big shout out to the pack, from 1 to 8. But the evergreen Ray Lilo was just epically grand in this game. Like he's such a fine player, and he was such a thorn in the side. But Cardiff just weren't scared. They just went and just run this big pack about. Made the right choices in all the right times, and scored some fantastic tries. And you kept expecting the Sharks to galvanise and come back with this fight back, but it just never happened. It just sort of filtered out. Do you mean like it? But at the end of the game, I was still. I don't think I started cheering until we actually recorded the pod, because I was still like shell shocked. Like that. And I remember receiving messages from you all going, I'm not looking forward to recording this podcast.
I remember watching the game, and like Cardiff, I think Cardiff scored quite early, and you thought, oh, okay, right, well, like you say, they're going to come back now. There's going to be a bit of a response off that.
Yeah.
And then it was about halfway through the first half, and Cardiff put in like a pointless kick, absolutely pointless kick into their 22, chasing, no pressure on the kicker or anything, and their fullback picked up the ball and knocked it on.
Yes,
and you just went, oh, is that the kind of game that they're having, that just when nothing goes right, and fair play, they just.
Was that when Ray Lilo was chasing as well?
I think so. It must say. Because I remember watching it and I remember going, sometimes you just get a feel for the way the game's going, and they were missing kicks to touch, and every time they missed a kick, you boys would run it back, 25, 30 meters, and stuff like this, and you're just thinking, Cardiff are on fire. And I think the impressive thing with that was, because they had a big side out, but they didn't get. Not only did you nil them, they didn't look like getting close to your line. Do you know what I mean?
They got nothing going, but every time they tried to get something going, sort of thing, we disrupt. I'm just looking at some of the things I forgot. After 14 minutes, Josh Turnbull was yellow carded. And at that time, I think we were only 3-0 up. And then on 22nd, we got another penalty and went 6-0 up. And 24th, penalty try. So obviously, Josh Turnbull going off was spark that we needed.
But it was, but it's
Potgieter went off, and then it just went one-way traffic. Penalty, Jared Evans, try, Thomas Young, conversion. Second half starts, try Thomas Young, try Ben Thomas. Oh my God, it was just, again, excited just talking about it.
I remember the pod. I remember doing that pod and just kind of going because you're Mr. Neutral, you're quite, you're the happy one, and you're always like the level head and go, well, let's not get too excited. You're just going like, oh, look at this, look what we did. How did you do, boys?
Yeah. I did my mind and everybody up there.
Yeah, it was.
To the point where people are commenting on Twitter about me.
Still,
big shout out to Harley, another friend of ours.
Well, let's say my boy has just come back from a tour to South Africa, and And so they watched one of the Sharks games in the Curry Cup. And I said, I went in and he messaged me at the time. He said, I'm in they call it the Shark Tank, the club shop. I'm in the Shark Tank, Dad. Which when your son messages you and goes, Dad, I'm in the Shark Tank, you get you get a little bit nervous to start with. And he goes, no, it's the club shop. Oh, okay, right, fair enough, crack on. And he's like, I'm getting a whole massive stash because it's like dirt cheap, Dad, and all this. And the amount of crap that he brought back, and he didn't bring anything for me. He got like 3 baseball caps. He had T-shirts. He's got shirts. He's got this jacket which is pure white, like whiter than white jacket. So
that for long, will it?
Well, exactly. We were sitting down to came home on the weekend, and we were sitting down for tea. And we were having spaghetti bolognese, and he went, "Oh, it's a bit cold." He puts this white jacket on. I went like, "Fella, you're having spaghetti bolognese. You are not wearing this sparkling white bloody jacket."
This is I can recognise this response as a fellow father, isn't it? You got a what colour coat? You got a white coat?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I won't stay clean for long.
Have you seen your socks? Have a look at your white socks.
Yeah.
But he said, the stadium's fantastic. The people around there are fantastic, and he had a really, really good time.
Oh, fantastic
down there.
What an experience!
Yeah. Well, he had a relaxation day where they went on a river cruise looking for fucking crocodiles and hippos. That's your relaxation day.
Actively looking for them.
Yeah. Bollocks to that. Relaxation day is sitting on the beach doing naff all. But fair play to them. 35-0 against the Sharks away.
Yes.
I don't think any of us have nilled anybody else this season. So to nil the Sharks at home, regardless of the rest of the season, that's just a fantastic result to come away with, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. We've got we're only talking about the URC here and stuff like that, but as Cardiff had, you had a better one, but we had a couple of good results in Europe as well. And yes, I am avoiding the next result. Round 9 against the Bulls. So in the pod, I remember being all buoyant, thinking, yeah, we could possibly beat the Bulls. And the Bulls said, no. So 45-9 was a very sobering event.
Well, I think every team that has gone to South Africa has had one decent game, and then the next game we've struggled. We've really, really struggled, and it just shows the lack of depth that we've got in our squads.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was last year. That was in the season when we actually had money.
And full-size squads.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we'll skip over your 45-9 loss. That's 45.
I won't give it that same sort of talk that I did the Sharks. Yeah,
no,
I've gladly gone to the next one. But again, at Rodney Parade as well. It's always a pleasure to win at Rodney Parade, and not just win at Rodney Parade. Win on the final second of the game. Oh no! I can just hear the keyboard start to clatter with all the Dragon supporters about to give me abuse. I welcome it. Corey Domachowski has had an awesome season as a player, and especially at the end of the season, he was part of a surprising, what wasn't our first choice. Any of that front row wasn't our first choice at the start of the season, but as I'm sure we'll come to in this pod. Him, Azarati, and Liam Belcher was a fantastic scrummaging front row in Europe for us. But Domachowski going over for that last try. It's just That's all I can say. I'm not an analyst. I'm a fan, but like it was, and I thought we were going to lose that game. I think, especially after the outing we had to the Bulls.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I thought you deserved to lose that game. Yeah, I really did. Just because Dragons were all over you for large parts of that game.
Yep.
And there were a couple of decisions in that last 10 minutes where I was kind of watching it and checking the strength of the beer. Like I was going, well, am I watching the decisions that the referee's given? Because it did just seem one way or another, everything was Cardiff those last 10 minutes. And, take nothing away from them. You still got to put the ball over the line and you still got to, throw straight, which that last line out was nowhere near straight. He had to stretch back and lean back to his own side to catch the bloody ball. Like, no idea. I was looking the other way with my one eye.
But it's all over us. Like to start with, up to 25 minutes, I'm just looking at how it happens. So Hanrahan got some penalties, and then we scored 2 tries. Thomas Williams and Josh Adams, converted. So what have you? But when we took our chances, we took our chances. And, we're not now. I can't be level-headed on this. Like it's against the Giants,
Well, yeah, and sometimes you find that stuff like that kind of balances itself out through the season, where you'll get the odd kind of decision will go against you in one game, and a decision will go for you in the next, sort of a thing. So you ride your luck, don't you? And so this is where this is the Christmas period now, and obviously, this is where I think the questions, that's where the questions on Twitter where they were, it was a couple of good weeks and maybe an off one, and then a couple of good weeks, and then it started going a little bit wonky over Christmas with the loss to the Ospreys.
Again. Yeah, and it was, and I got to be fair, and we nearly won it at the death. With the last penalty sort of thing, we just streamed forward, and it nearly landed in a Cardiff player's hand to fall over the line, but alas didn't. I went with Carwyn to watch this game, which I've got to stop.
You've got to stop, mate.
Every time I go with Carwyn to a Cardiff Ospreys game, we lose, and I've been to that miserable place, which is the Liberty. Rainy nights with him. At the end of the day, I think the score flattered us in this game. I think, we put some good stuff together, but it just looked like Ospreys were sort of turning the screw a little bit. They were winning the 50-50s. They were a more physical side, and we were struggling with that throughout the game, even though we were able to make things happen for ourselves. But I thought it was even though I was bitterly disappointed, and even more disappointed that I then had to go for a drink with Carwyn. Love you, Carwyn. Watch the Scan game straight afterwards. So I got drunk. So the City Arms across the road, but I think it was a deserved victory for the Ospreys in this game.
So having spent Judgment Day sat with Carwyn, watching 2 games back to back, I mean, you need some stiff alcohol just to get through. Do you know what I mean? I think I said to him at one point, we were talking earlier about scrum halves, and I think I said to him, "Can you just shut up? Can you just bloody stop talking for a couple of minutes, mate?" And he's like, "I'm nervous. It's fucking half time, So, yeah, but bless him. He's. I think he has that. But don't you find when you go with Carwyn, it's like having a kid, don't you know those reins you used to have with a kid, so you could always keep them within like 2 or 3 meters, and then you turn your back and they'd escape somewhere.
Yeah.
And Carwin's a little bit like that. And then he turns up and he's going, I'm having a drink with Joe Hawkins in one of the hospitality lounges.
That was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. Like, when he sent me sent us pictures of that, like, I was just laughing. Of course he is. He just walked in. Like, but I gotta be fair. Like, it's a great night out at Cardiff because I remember going to the Liberty Stadium once. We caught the train down there. We had a drink before the game, a drink during the game, and then we looked at our watches, and it was just like, oh my God, it's like a 20-minute walk back to the train, and the train leaves in 10 minutes. And somehow we got to the train, yeah? So full of beer, running. We got on the train, and it was full going back to Cardiff. And he just starts everybody singing Welsh rugby songs. I don't think it was something like, what have you, but everybody joined in. It was fantastic. Like, got to Cardiff, and then went out for the night. Like, it is. It's a good night off, man.
I think we should do like a hosted kind of beer a pub crawl around Cardiff, where Carwin can just lead us around Cardiff, and we'll do a live pod as we're going and just see how many people we can pick up as we go around Cardiff doing a live pod crawl. So that was your loss to the Ospreys, and then
your vengeance was next.
I'll be honest, I don't remember much about that card because it was the week after New Year's, wasn't it? It was like January 6th or 7th or something like that. And, I still remember just being fucking livid with the Ospreys game at that point. I was still bouncing. But, I think Dan Davis had quite a good game because it was Dan Davis and Tom Young. And I don't really remember much about it, I'll be honest.
Yeah. Well, I remember the gut-wrenching feeling of losing to you at home. That was
a John Davis try, wasn't it? The Jonathan Davis try. That was the offside, and that was it. Yeah, that's it. I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah, so Johnny McNichol scored. Dane Blacker, Johnny McNichol, Jonathan Davis. It's from bad to worse, really. Like, isn't it? You had a few yellow cards as well. Schindler went off. Steph Thomas went off. We had Timani go off a bit earlier on. And this is just like a period where we go through and we're like really sort of creaking, like, we're just talking again. USC now. We put some more like decent games together. Like before all these things happened. Lost to the Scarlets, and then that trip to Leinster straight afterwards.
Which, playing Leinster away is always a hard game anyway, but when you're going in off two defeats, two home defeats
you could have won, like, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you're heading out to Leinster, and you're just like, it's not the best preparation, like, is it? But Leinster have dished out bigger hidings than 38-14 this season, mate.
They have, but I remember speaking to like a lot on the pod, and like Carwin and his optimism said, "Well, I've looked at the team sheet, and it's a second string side, but that's the thing with Leinster, isn't it? That depth that they have is just the We're jealous of that, aren't they? So,
and it's every year now. It's starting to get boring, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. It's like who's going to come second?
All the later stages and what have you, like, isn't it? We've got to stop that.
Yeah. But then they're losing Stuart Lancaster. So
that's a big loss, that is. Yes, he's a fantastic coach, isn't he? I mean, I know people hark back to the 2015 World Cup, isn't it? But he still was in charge of a very good England side, and everywhere else he's coached have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's a very good coach, yeah.
Well, I saw a stat today that was something like since Stuart Lancaster came into Leinster, the amount of points that they score per game has doubled. So the average number of points per game has doubled since he's been there. So it's he's obviously doing something right. You know, he's obviously half decent guy somewhere. But
yeah, Yeah.
Yeah.
Leinster. I didn't expect to win. I expected to. But I always believe before a game, and this is why I love rugby. And so when it comes off, the feeling, the adrenaline I get is just this is why I watch it, like, isn't it? But yeah, I had like small hopes, a glimmer of hope when the team sheet was more of a lot of youngsters coming through for Leinster and things like that. But what a great performance! And we just didn't look interested either. Like I thought in that game, like, isn't it? I was quite.
But that's where the inconsistency in the season has been, isn't it? That's where where you can get yourself up for games like the Stormers and the Sharks, but against Leinster, like you say, I think it was the second half against Leinster, which just seemed to kind of fall away and was quite flat. There was nothing. There was not even a couple of punch-ups, nobody sticking a digger. There was no decent tackles. There was no potential breaks. Do you know what I mean? It was all a little bit flat. As I mind you, that's how I remember the game. It could have been completely different, mate.
No. That's the flat is a very to the Cardiff performance sort of thing. But I think in many ways we weren't allowed to play like Leinster just snuff out games, don't they? Like and stop other sides. Not only play their game plan, but stop other sides playing theirs. And whether it was that or like just a very tired squad. Without moving into the time when stuff happening in Welsh rugby was really sort of starting to bite.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
So I think that was not a part to play that loss. We were going to lose anyway, but
but then you respond from that one, and then the week after you beat Benetton at home, and Benetton had giving you a proper ass kicking at the end of the last season.
Yeah, and beat us in Europe.
Yeah. So, and actually, I think Benetton are probably better than their 11th place finish. They were one place below you in the league.
They play some great rugby, and I mean, Zebra play some great rugby, but Benetton have turned a corner in game management, I guess, and things like that, which has probably improved their positioning.
And I like their ground. I like the Benetton ground because it's like there's a little hedge. It's like, and it just looks so much more civil and so much more kind of like you're playing in someone's back garden. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know why. I think Leinster have got it as well. But you just like this feels nice. It feels quite cozy and homely, and I'd quite like to play on Benetton's ground. Just
it's like, do you remember following you like to Scarlett following Llanelli back in the day? I remember following Cardiff. My mate's brother used to drive us across South Wales to these tiny clubs. I remember standing on the roof at Durban's ground, and all these Abertillery and Newbridge and and all these sort of grounds so it's a harks back a little bit.
Well, I remember playing at Pontypool Park. It was the first time I'd ever played there, and my dad was like, "Oh, this big ground, this is a lovely ground, and it's got the racing track all the way around here. Oh, you love it, And I was sub, so I'm kind of stood on the side of the pitch, and no matter where I stood, people were moaning that they couldn't see the game. And I'm like, "Oh, fuck off! I'm the sub. I'm warming up here, mate. I'm stretching off."
Bit full of yourself there, you Lee.
yeah. But the amount of abuse I had from the sideline just for standing on the sideline, all the other subs were sitting down, and it didn't occur to me until after that they were sat down for a reason. So, but it's grounds like that, isn't it, that are quite
I've got to admit, my level of rugby, I never played in a ground where I was blocking the crowd. Maybe a dog or two.
And some old woman with an umbrella. The worst one I played against was South Wales Police. When we played against South Wales Police, and I think they put 5 of our boys in hospital. And really? At half time out the. So I was only 18 at the time, and our coach was like, right, Lee, you're down a sub. I was going to bring you on at half time, mate. You might not get a game today. Literally, we got to, so I was back row, second row, and we got to the point where like two of our back row had gone off, and then our other second row goes down, and it's me or a centre, and our coach is looking at us and going like, I could put the centre on the flank. just because when you're 18, you know, you're going to get absolutely killed. Yeah, they're going to have it. But the ground was lovely. I remember looking around the ground and going, this is quite nice. And then the people who were watching are quite not very nice at all. And then the people on the pitch were really not very nice. But so anyway, you went to Benetton and won.
Yeah, to give it a go. Like at my level of rugby, like I played a season for Cabalva in Cardiff, like which is sort of a working class area, like the area of Cardiff, out from the next village along Llandaff North. I remember playing against Ely Bridge, and that's another like fruity area of Cardiff sort of thing. And I was like 5 hours in casualty after that game. It wasn't rugby, like it was just this punch up for 80 minutes, like, it's like grassroots rugby, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, big Benetton, a really good side. Just bringing it back to the pod. I'm pleased with that result, to be honest. Like, I don't think it was definite, especially with the 69 points they put on us the season before. I know it was an open game, and I said, when they don't tend to travel well, but yeah, I was pleased to get that one out of the way, especially after we'd lost, the Ospreys lost to yourselves with Benetton on the horizon, who'd taken some scalps already.
I think if you'd have lost that game, then it would have all gone kind of. And people would have started getting on people's backs and all of that kind of stuff. But the fact that you didn't, and you actually put in a decent score over Benetton, I thought kind of not saved your season, but it kind of, you could feel a little bit of negative momentum building, and it kind of stopped that, didn't it? It kind of went, hang on a tick, we're still here, which is just as well.
And got absolutely thumped by Ulster at home. We scored some good tries, but like much like Ulster, much like Leinster, can just strangle a side out of a game, isn't it? So they just, I'm not going to go mad into sort of refereeing and stuff like that. It's not really my way. But sometimes I question some of the ways that the games against the Irish provinces.
Every time,
as opposed to what's actually happening at the breakdown or outside it or at scrum time. And scrum time, just like it's the best, not always educated guess. They were a more physical side than we were. We couldn't match that. And yeah, I complain about some of the decisions, but we're worth 42 points, I think.
Yeah. But then again, you turn that round, and the week after, but then at the start of the season, you would have said, Zebra away, that should be a comfortable. I mean, that was a bonus point win, but you would have expected it to be a little bit further ahead.
We were shaky, we were shaky defensively. I got to be fair, so some of the tries that Zebra scored were like top draw, right? They threw the ball about. There was some fantastic, well coached attacking play from Zebra. And I was really pleased because that was a possible banana skin and has been in the past. So,
first game of the season, Zebra played Leinster at home in Zebra. And they should have won that game. They were 5 minutes away from winning that game. And if they'd have won that first game, that throws the whole of the rest of the season, up in the air. And one, Leinster are really pissed off, and two, Zebra have got their tails up, But yeah, I don't think they're that far away from. They're a bit like the Dragons, where if they can maintain that consistency of some of the tries they score, and when their heads go down, they go down proper. You know,
yes.
if they can hold that, okay, they've scored a try, well, we're going to go back and score, that sort of a thing. You know, they're not that far away from being mid-table, in all honesty. So yeah, like you're right. It was
games like this, isn't it? Games like against us, isn't it? Like when, but I felt. I felt worried all the way through, to be honest. Like if it's hindsight, isn't it? You know, and I think, like, you know, watching the highlights again, I felt we had control of that game. But you are right. You know, they're a couple of results off. They've always got like all the Italian sides always got a really decent pack. They're now producing quality backs, isn't it? When we spoke to Marcello, isn't it? That's something that he was saying, like, isn't it? We've always had, you know, some talented forwards that have really been able to cause sides some problems, you know, at the set piece and at the breakdown. But now they're producing some really good sort of talented outside backs, and I think that's coming through with their regions. I think regions are clubs. I
think technically they're clubs, but they kind of run by the Italian rugby union, if you like, as kind of like development sides for the national side. So I think they're all centrally contracted. I might be wrong, but this is from a couple of years ago, that they're all centrally contracted. And even the under-20s are contracted, and they get told, like, right, you'll go into Zebra, you'll go into Benetton, sort of a thing. And they have, up until a couple of years ago, they tried to balance the sides so that there was two kind of decent sides, but they were decent at the bottom. And then I think they switched and they just went, right, okay, we'll chuck all of the good players into Benetton and see how that works. And I think that's where we are now, is they're kind of seeing the benefit of having a lot of decent players in the same place, which is ironic because we're seeing exactly the opposite. We're seeing this is what happens if you let all the decent players go. This is where you end up. So
before we started recording, I was having a little look because I knew we'd be reviewing Cardiff, about all the players that's left the region this year, like, and it's eye-watering, isn't it? I think it's like 16 players in total.
Yeah,
and most of those are the heart and soul of the side. You know, if you're going to put out a full-strength side, the majority of those players need big numbers.
Yeah, and like you say, some of those players that have left, you look at and you like with everybody else has kind of published their list, and you go like Moriarty, and you go, oh, you wouldn't want to lose Moriarty, you know, Calamafoni. Nobody wants to lose Calamafoni. And then Cardiff, you go like, hang on, you've got, you know, Llewellyn, you've got
Dimitri, who really anchors after him when he's on. Like, you see a difference to us.
Yeah.
Christian Dacey retirements, but fair play to him. Like, you know, he's like, even in some really dark days, like I remember one season, at one point in the season, he was the top try scorer because I was getting all that tries through sort of rolling balls, and he was a real like firebrand coming from Hooker. Dylan Lewis, I think that's a massive loss. Jason Harries, he was sort of third choice and what have you, but always he's a big winger that run hard and give his heart and soul and stuff like that. Jared Evans, massive loss, absolute massive loss for us. We've got Joe Pearce, Lloyd Williams, maybe, you know, fantastic, fine player that's played more games than anybody else for Cardiff. But, you know, maybe coming towards the end of his career. Max Llewellyn is a huge loss because what a prospect he is, and I'm sure we're gonna watch him play for Gloucester and do some damage. The lines he picks, the size he is, you know, he's got some deft hands as well. Harry Millard, don't mind so much. He's a good, decent squad player. Kirby Myhill, Josh Navidi, massive. I nearly cried. Rhys Priestland, it's fine that Rhys goes. He's coming to the end of his, you know, career. He puts in some fantastic performances, and then others you're like, oh, Rhys. James Ratty's a massive loss, I think, to the squad, and one I thought we'd keep. do you mean with Faratau won't here till I don't know when? He'd be the next sort of choice, a really decent number 8 to have. Ball carrier, really low legend, but I think he's 36 now and still putting in performances. Braithwaite and Willis Halaholo, who's one of the most unlucky men in rugby. What a talent. I've seen him do such damage to such good sides, and a lovely chap as well, sort of thing. I just met him in a pub in a Cardiff shirt, and he came over and just said hello because I was wearing a Cardiff shirt. And had a chat with me and my wife, so if you have a look at that side, you could probably feel that side, and that could do some damage.
Except half of them would be injured. You'd have to make sure that they're not injured first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of brings us to the end of your season. There was the loss to Connaught away, but then there was Judgment Day.
Oh, that was just beautiful. That was better than sex. That was and it was like, oh my God! It was just like, and it wasn't. We just got over the finish line. We battered them, and I can't be fair. And this is the Welsh rugby mentality, isn't it? And we were all guilty of this a little bit, isn't it? And even at national level, when it used to be as long as we beat the English, that song, the Stereophonics. It's like, I love beating anybody. I want Cardiff to win every game, but especially sweet when we beat the Welsh regions. You guys, but beating the Ospreys, it just wasn't expected. It was a lovely gift.
Well, I was sat with Carwyn and we spoke about it last week. Where there was this little kid to my left, so Carwyn to my right, and this poor couple to Carwyn's right. That he was like, I told you that we do a podcast. You would listen to the podcast now, weren't you? And they're like, everyone around us was, yes, Carwyn, we know you do a podcast. And he was this kid over 12 left.
Now and go, who's the Cardiff fucker? This is shit.
But there was this little kid where everything, anytime the referee gave anything for the Ospreys, and this kid was only like about 10. Look, come on, ref! What are you looking at? You blind or what? So Carwyn started to argue with this little kid, and then he starts giving stuff for Cardiff. And you go, that's more like, yes, referee. Now we've got him. They're on the ropes. And Carwyn's going, hey, shut up, you. And his dad's going, oh, he's got a point. He's got a point. You go, yeah. It was. It was a good. I quite enjoyed that game. I just think you get to the end of the season. It's a shame that it is at this point of the season. It's one of those things that I think they did it in English rugby for a while, where they had first game of the season was all derbies and the equivalent of Judgment Day start the season, and it worked really, really well. And a mate of mine was saying on our Scarlets pod that we could do like a Saturday and a Sunday, and kind of do a couple of like Premiership games. So let's say it's Ospreys and Cardiff on the Saturday. Yeah, so you'd have your Premiership sides play against each other first rather than do it a Judgment Day. So you'd have more Ospreys supporters, more regional supporters. Do you know what I mean? And do it that way, sort of thing. And I thought it was a really good idea, a way of bringing everybody together and that kind of stuff. Because you'd go and you'd watch both games and you'd stay for the weekend in Cardiff and all that kind of stuff, and it'd be great then. But yeah, I think for me,
understand what people do, but I guess I carried away. But like, it's such a. It just feels like, yeah, come on, let's all go watch all the regions play now, like, isn't it? And have a good rugby festival. But it's never taken that way, and that damages the atmosphere then, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely does. And it used to be that the Scarlets used to play second, and it was always Cardiff Ospreys first, and everybody bugger off at half time. And I was always, well, you wouldn't get this if you put the Scarlets on first. We'd be staying and we'd be watching. And and it wasn't any different. It was. I'm sat there and I'm looking around and I'm going, well, where have all the Scarlets boys gone? And they're like all in the pub and what have you. But yeah, it's a shame. Everybody cheers for their own side, but I was there winding Carwin up. I was there just shouting, everything for Cardiff. Yeah, come on, Cardiff. Who's that boy there? Oh, that's Priestland. Yeah, come on, Priestland. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Thomas Young, again, just showed his class. Thomas Williams, who was, had a little bit of the season, maybe, I don't know, would be playing towards rugby.
It's the moustache, mate. I'm telling you, it's the moustache.
Started back, and so was his form. He was everywhere. That try score, we just tapped and went and put Max Sewell in. And let's see, sad loss. It's like two players just run through the side. Thomas Williams again got tackled, went to the ground, popped it up, and Thomas Young just hitting it at such speed, nobody's going to catch him. And it's just great. As you remember, I was playing a gig in my very uncool middle-aged covers band that night. So it's like, get this now. This is a problem with Welsh rugby. The gig was in a rugby club. Manchester City game on, and I had to ask for the Judgment Day game to go on. Isn't it?
That's not acceptable. That's not.
No, it's not acceptable. Yeah. So I got it on. Yeah. But yeah, that was a fantastic. I couldn't wait to speak to Carwin after that. Yeah.
He was half cut, mate.
People to ring and message. So I wasn't expecting it, because if you recall, Di Young was suspended on the Thursday, was it?
It was the Friday. It was the Friday. Yeah.
And Rhys. So I think we were playing a brand of rugby that we've been trying to play all the season as well, which is, you have to with a smaller pack than we have to many of the sides in the USC. And when you've got players like Thomas Young and stuff like that, you have to move the bigger packs around, don't you? You have to just keep them motoring about, sort of thing. And it doesn't always come off if that pack can fit enough to keep up with you. But it did that day. And let's always remember that. And that was my full stop.
But then that kind of finishes Cardiff season the way it started, didn't it? It started with Eggate, and then it's finished with Di Young suspended. And
another thing with Welsh rugby. Yeah. But
I just think that's kind of summed up Cardiff season with it. There's so much stuff off the field that's kind of distracting from the stuff on the field.
I just want to say about on the field as well, special mention to some of the performers we put in Europe. We smashed Newcastle twice. We put Breve away, battered them the one sort of thing, and then lost, unfortunately, out. But we didn't. I don't think we had a bad game out in Breve. And then the game against Sale was just superb, and that was grit. It was determination. Again against a sort of bigger pack. It was just beautiful, and winning again at the last sort of moment of the game. And I know we lost the next game then, but against Benetton, and all the sides to lose against. No disrespect. But I thought we were surefire going all the way, possibly beating maybe in the end. That game against Sale was special, man. Absolutely special.
So how would you sum up Cardiff season then?
Hot and cold, but I thought, and I'll probably repeat myself when we do the reviews of the other sides as well, is that the players on the whole absolutely gave 110% in regards to what was happening around them, sort of thing. I work in the job I do, you work in the job you do. If you had to work, imagine having to work under the auspices that we might not need you in June, isn't it? So when are you going to let me know? Soon. I'm getting a mortgage. Well, yeah, we'll try our best. In no other industry would that be acceptable. And for We lost a few. We might should have won. We lost a few in very close games. But every time the chips were down, I thought Cardiff, against Sale, against Ospreys, against Sharks, against, putting aside a very poor Newcastle side, to be fair. I was going, why has he run there? It's like, thank you, but it's like,
why is that fullback having a fag behind the posts?
It's like Cardiff and Districts, but you've got to give it to him, man. Like the mental health that they must have gone through, especially the squad men, isn't it? The internationals would have found a way to be looked after. Do you mean even if it was a talking circuit? I don't know, isn't it? But the squad men, the people are on the 40 and the 50 grand a year sort of thing. I think they need to, even though we've got this thing in place, we need to remember what happened, remember what these players have been through, give them credit for some of the performances that they put in anyway, and still hold the WU to account for what they did, isn't it? And even down the line, they're talking about money and stuff like that. Fine, we need to support these players with their mental health and things like that, isn't it? Because we've heard ourselves, we've spoken about it on the pod about players feeling suicidal and things like that, and really, really going down. So that has to be noticed, So on the whole, under very difficult circumstances, is my long-winded response.
If that's your quick reply, what's a long one?
There must be something else in this, Bruno. As I thought, we give. As a supporter, I saw every player give his all. So great.
Yeah, and you can't ask more than that, can you?
No, you can't. No.
Cool. Well, I tell you what we'll do, mate. We'll knock it on the head there, and then next week we'll do Ospreys, because they pushed you quite close, even right up to the end. They could have still nicked it off you. No, they couldn't have nicked it off you, could they? I think it was 1 point. I think you needed from Judgment Day or something like that, wasn't it? It was close anyway, right up until the very end. And then we'll do Scar. I can't remember.
Less completely, no match points whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think they had to make sure that you didn't get any match points at all, and they had 5 and all that kind of stuff.
Which was a possibility, let's be honest. Depending on what performance.
Yeah. So we'll do Ospreys next week, then we'll do Scarlets, then we'll do Dragons, and then we'll kind of do a Welsh region summary as a whole. We'll do the national side, and then we'll do all the off-field stuff. By then, the off-field stuff, we may have a whole new pod of off-field stuff. The way stuff's going, we may have 4 weeks' time, we may have a whole new pod on what's gone on with Welsh rugby off-field this season.
We might need to bring in an admin person just to keep bringing in the off-field stuff. It's fun.
So there we go, my friend. A pleasure as always this evening, and we shall catch up again, and we shall do it again next week.
Nice one, Lee.
All the best, mate. Enjoy your rugby, my friend. All the best.
Ta-da, ta-da.
Thank you for listening to the Wrap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.